Hey guys, in today's video, I bring you a captivating story that will make you reflect on the future of humanity. Let's meet Rowan Aldridge, a man who literally faced death and came back with a shocking revelation about the Great Judgment. What he saw on the other side will leave you speechless. He met with his deceased brother, underwent a life review, and had shocking visions about Earth's future. And now he has an important mission to share with us all. So before we start, leave your like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Get ready, because this intense journey will change the way you see the world. Let's go. My name is Rowan Aldridge, and what I'm about to share with you isn't just a story, it's a confession, a revelation, and most of all, a wake-up call. I'm 35 now, but the experience that changed my life happened when I was 25. Back then, I was a lost young man, deep in drugs and without purpose. It all started with the death of my younger brother Jesse in a car accident. He was just 21 years old, full of dreams and promises. His sudden death left a void in me that I didn't know how to fill. Jesse was more than my brother. He was my best friend, my anchor. When I lost him, I felt like an essential part of me had been ripped away. The pain was unbearable, and I had no idea how to deal with it. Instead of dealing with my grief in a healthy way, I chose a path of self-destruction. Drugs became my refuge, a way to numb the pain and escape the cruel reality I didn't want to accept. Day after day, I sank deeper into this abyss of despair and self-pity. My relationships deteriorated, I lost my job, and I isolated myself from everyone who cared about me. I was the shadow of the man I used to be, the older brother who should have been strong, the protector who failed in his most important mission. It was in this state of complete desolation that I reached my breaking point. On July 17, 2010, I made a decision that would change the course of my life forever. I decided I had enough. The pain, the guilt, the shame. I wanted it all to go away. That fateful night, I swallowed an entire bottle of narcotic painkillers, intending to end my own life. Little did I know that instead of finding the end, I was about to embark on a journey that would completely transform my understanding of life, death, and the purpose of our existence. What happened next challenged everything I believed I knew about reality and showed me an aspect of the universe I could never have imagined. That July night, sitting on the floor of my messy apartment, I stared at the bottle of pills in my hands. The label was faded, but I knew exactly what it contained. A lethal dose of narcotic painkillers. My mind was clouded, a mix of despair and grim determination. With shaking hands, I opened the lid and poured the pills into the palm of my hand. There was no hesitation. One by one, I swallowed the pills, washing them down with sips of cheap whiskey. The bitter taste in my mouth was almost comforting, a physical reminder of my decision to end it all. As I swallowed them, a strange calm enveloped me. For the first time in months, I felt like I was in control of something. The minutes that followed seemed to drag by. Sitting on the floor, leaning against the cold wall, I waited. Part of me wanted it to be quick, for sleep to come soon and take me away. Another part, a distant voice in the back of my mind, screamed in protest, begging me to reconsider, to ask for help. But I ignored her, determined to follow through. Gradually, I started to feel the effects. My vision became blurred, the edges of objects around me began to blend together. A strange tingling ran through my body, starting at my fingertips and spreading. My breathing slowed, each inhale requiring more effort than the last. The world around me began to lose focus, as if it was dissolving. The colors seemed more vivid for a moment, then began to fade. The sounds became distant, muffled, as if I were submerged in deep water. My thoughts, once a storm of guilt and regret, began to calm. In my last moments of consciousness, an unexpected thought crossed my mind. Jesse. I wondered if I would see him soon, if he would forgive me for giving up. A lone tear ran down my face as darkness enveloped me, and then, Just when I thought it was all over, something extraordinary happened. Just as my consciousness seemed to fade away completely, there was a sudden burst of clarity. It was as if my mind had been ripped from my body and thrown into a vast space of pure consciousness. Suddenly, I could see, not with my physical eyes, but with a perception that transcended the common senses. I saw my own body, motionless on the floor of the apartment. I saw the paramedics arriving, their movements frantic as they fought to bring me back to life. I floated above the scene, a detached observer of my own mortal drama. It was at that moment that I realized I had crossed a threshold. I was on the edge between life and death, in a realm that defied everything I believed possible. And it was there, in that space between worlds, that my true journey began. Floating above my own body, I experienced an indescribable sense of freedom and clarity. It was as if all physical limitations had been removed, and my consciousness expanded in all directions. The room in my apartment, once a scene of despair, now seemed small and insignificant compared to the vastness I perceived. I watched, with a mixture of fascination and detachment, as the paramedics worked on my body. Their voices were muffled, as if they were coming from far away, but I could understand every word. "He's not breathing," one of them shouted. "Starting CPR," replied another. His hands moved urgently, applying compressions to my chest, while another readied the defibrillator. The strangest thing was that I didn't feel afraid. On the contrary, there was a deep, almost euphoric feeling of peace. All the pain, all the anguish that led me to that moment seemed to have been left behind with my physical body. I felt light, free from any emotional or physical weight. As I watched the scene, I noticed that my perception went beyond the room. I could see through the walls, noticing my neighbors in their apartments, some sleeping, others watching TV, completely oblivious to the drama unfolding just a few feet away. It was as if the entire building was transparent to me. Suddenly my attention was drawn to something beyond the apartment. A light, brighter and purer than anything I had ever seen, began to form in the corner of my field of vision. She was warm and welcoming, inviting me closer. I felt an irresistible pull towards her. As I moved toward the light, I found myself moving further and further away from my body and the scene in the apartment. A part of me hesitated, looking back at the body I was leaving, but the attraction of the light was stronger. She promised answers, comfort, and an understanding I never had in my life. As I approached, the light expanded, enveloping me completely. It was like diving into an ocean of pure energy. Colors I had never seen before danced around me, creating complex and beautiful patterns. I felt embraced by an unconditional love, a total acceptance that I had never experienced before. It was at that moment that I realized this was not the end. It was just the beginning of something much bigger. My journey was just beginning, and I was about to discover truths that would completely transform my understanding of life, death, and everything in between. As I completely surrendered to the light, I felt transported to another realm of existence, a place where time and space did not have the same meaning, where the limitations of the physical world did not apply. I was about to embark on a journey of self-discovery and revelation that would change the course of my existence forever. Enveloped by the radiant light, I felt myself being guided through an experience that I can only describe as a complete review of my life. It was as if every moment, every decision, every interaction I had ever had was being played out before me in a vast, multi-dimensional panorama. The most extraordinary thing was not just seeing these events, but experiencing them again, with a depth and perspective I had never had before. I wasn't just a passive observer. I was reliving every moment, feeling not only my own emotions, but also the emotions of those around me. I saw myself as a little boy, experiencing the pure joy of playing with Jessie in our backyard. I felt my parents' unconditional love, but I also realized, for the first time, the weight of the expectations they placed on me as the oldest child. I relived the moments of jealousy when Jessie was born, and the guilt that followed when I realized how much I loved him. As we progressed through my teenage years, I saw the moments when I failed my brother, the times you were too busy to listen to him, the broken promises, the harsh words spoken in moments of anger. I felt the pain I caused him, and it went through me like a knife. So, we come to the accident. I relived the moment I received the news, the feeling of the world falling apart around me. But this time I could also feel my parents' pain, the shock of Jesse's friends, the void that his departure left in so many lives. The following years unfolded in a downward spiral of self-destruction. I found myself pushing away the people who tried to help me, diving deeper and deeper into drugs. I felt my parents' disappointment, my friends' concern, and the crushing weight of my own self-pity. The most surprising thing was that, in the midst of all this darkness, there were moments of light that I hadn't noticed before. A kind smile to a stranger on the street, a word of comfort to a friend in need, small acts of kindness that I had completely forgotten about. I realized that even in my worst moments, there was still a spark of goodness in me. As I reached the end, the moment of my overdose, I expected to feel judgment or condemnation. But there was none of that. Just a deep, compassionate understanding. There was no one judging me other than myself. In that moment, I understood that every decision we make, every interaction we have, creates ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. I saw how my actions affected not only those close to me, but created a chain of events that touched lives I didn't even know existed. The review ended, leaving me with a clarity I have never experienced before. I realized that I had failed at many of life's most important lessons, but I also saw the potential for growth and redemption. I felt a growing determination to do things differently, to live with more purpose and compassion. As this realization solidified within me, I felt a new presence approaching. It was a familiar presence, one I knew better than any other. My heart filled with a mixture of joy and apprehension as I realized who I was about to meet. Amidst the radiant light that enveloped me, a silhouette began to form. As it gained definition, my heart raced with recognition. It was Jesse, my little brother, just as I remembered him, young, full of life, with that mischievous smile that always lit up his face. "You really managed to get yourself into trouble, huh, brother?" Jesse said, his voice a mix of amusement and concern. It wasn't the words I expected to hear at what seemed like a cosmic reunion, but it was so like him that I couldn't help but smile. I wanted to run to him, hug him, tell him how much I missed him, how much I regretted everything. But in that realm, interactions didn't work like they did in the physical world. Instead, I felt a wave of emotions flowing between us: love, forgiveness, mutual understanding. It was as if we could communicate years of unspoken feelings in a single moment. "Jesse," I began, my voice shaking with emotion, "I'm sorry. For everything, for what I did after you left, for not being the brother you deserved when you were alive." Jesse looked at me with a compassion that went beyond any human understanding. "Rowan, you don't need to apologize. I understand. I always have." His voice carried a wisdom that seemed to go beyond his 21 years. "But you need to understand too. All this pain, all this guilt, this is not what I wanted for you." I felt a wave of shame wash over me. "I failed you, Jesse. I should have been stronger. I should have—" "Stop," Jesse interrupted me gently. "You didn't fail me. You were hurting, and sometimes when we're hurting, we lose our way. But look at where you are now. You have a chance, Rowan. A chance to do things differently." His words hit me deeply. It was true. I was there, in that place between worlds, with an understanding I had never had before. "Wait, what should I do, Jesse?" I asked, feeling for the first time in years like the younger brother, looking for guidance. Jesse smiled, that smile that always brightened up even the darkest days. "Live, Rowan. Really live. Not just exist, not just survive, but live with purpose. There is so much you can still do, so many lives you can touch." I felt a mixture of hope and fear. But how? After everything I've done, all the time I've wasted, Time is never wasted if we learn from it, Jesse said, his voice full of conviction. And you have learned, haven't you? Look at all you have seen, all you have felt on this journey. You have knowledge now that few have. Use it. At that moment, I felt something shift inside me. The guilt and regret that had been my constant companions began to dissipate, replaced by a growing determination. Jesse was right. I had a chance and an opportunity to make a difference. There's more you need to see, Jesse said, extending his hand to me. Are you ready? I hesitated for a moment, looking at my brother. There was so much I wanted to say, so many questions I wanted to ask, but somehow, I knew it wasn't the time. This meeting was not an end, but a beginning. I'm ready, I replied, feeling a courage I hadn't experienced in years. Jesse smiled once again, a smile full of love and promise. Then let's go. There are people you need to meet. With that, Jesse began to guide me through the light, toward something I couldn't see but I could feel. It was as if we were moving through layers of reality, each deeper and more meaningful than the last. As we progressed, I realized this journey was far from over. In fact, I was just getting started, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see what came next. Following Jesse through that ethereal realm, I felt enveloped by an increasingly intense energy. The light around us pulsed with a life of its own, as if responding to our movements. Suddenly, we found ourselves in a space that I can only describe as a room, although that word seems inadequate to capture the grandeur and transcendental nature of the place. The walls, if they could be called that, seemed to be made of pure light, constantly changing color and intensity. The ground beneath our feet, although I didn't actually have feet in this state, felt solid and ethereal at the same time, as if we were floating and firmly planted simultaneously. In the center of this extraordinary room, 3 figures waited. 2 women dressed in costumes reminiscent of the Victorian era, and a man in elaborate tribal clothing. But the most impressive thing was not their appearances, but the aura they emanated. Each radiated an energy of wisdom, compassion, and power that was almost palpable. Jesse guided me to them, and I felt a mixture of awe and apprehension well up inside me. As we got closer, I realized they didn't need to talk. Their intentions, thoughts, and emotions were transmitted directly to my consciousness. The first woman stepped forward, her presence exuding a sense of ancient knowledge. Without words, she made me understand that they were beings of light, guardians and guides who existed beyond the limitations of time and space as we know them. The man in tribal clothing was the next to communicate. His message was clear. My journey on Earth was not yet complete. The life I was about to abandon still had a significant purpose to fulfill. The second woman then approached, and with her came a wave of understanding that left me stunned. She showed me visions of the future, not just mine, but the world as a whole. I saw Earth going through drastic changes, spiritual and environmental challenges that would test humanity to its limits. These visions were overwhelming. I saw societies in turmoil, systems collapsing, but I also saw hope, people coming together, finding new ways to live in harmony with the planet and each other. And to my surprise, I saw myself in these visions, older, wiser, playing a role in helping others navigate these turbulent times. The beings of light made me understand that we were on the brink of a critical period in the history of humanity, something they called the Great Judgment. It was not a trial in the traditional sense, with a judge deciding the fate of souls. It was more like a collective tipping point, where each individual's choices and actions would have a profound impact on the destiny of humanity as a whole. I was stunned by the magnitude of what was being shown and communicated. How could I, a broken person who had given up on life, play any role in this? As if they read my thoughts, and they probably could, the beings of light gave me a sense of confidence and purpose. They made me understand that my experiences, even my mistakes and struggles, had uniquely prepared me for the work that lay ahead. Jesse, who had remained silent this entire time, placed his hand on my shoulder, or at least that's how I perceived the gesture in that non-physical realm. "See, brother," he said, his voice full of love and encouragement. "There is much more at stake than you could imagine. You have a role to play, a mission to fulfill." I looked at my brother, at the beings of light, and back at the visions of the future that still danced in my consciousness. For the first time in years, I felt something awaken inside me, a sense of purpose, a spark of hope. I knew I had a choice to make. I could stay in that realm of peace and understanding, or I could return to the life I tried to leave behind. But now, with everything I had seen and learned, this choice had a weight and meaning that I never could have imagined. The visions that the beings of light shared with me intensified, becoming more vivid and detailed. It was as if I was being transported through time and space, witnessing events that were yet to come. I saw the Earth like never before. Our blue and green planet was undergoing dramatic transformations. Extreme temperatures ravaged entire regions, triggering mass migrations. Ocean levels rose, swallowing coastal cities. Forests burned, while elsewhere, the land became barren and infertile. But it wasn't just physical changes. I saw humanity in turmoil, facing the consequences of centuries of wrong choices. Economic systems collapsed, political structures disintegrated, and people were forced to question everything they had considered true and safe. In the midst of this chaos, I saw something extraordinary happening. It was as if a veil was being lifted from humanity's collective consciousness. People from all over the world were beginning to awaken to a greater reality, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. I saw individuals facing what the beings of light called karmic mirrors, situations that forced them to confront the consequences of their past actions, not just in this lifetime, but over many incarnations. It was a painful process, but also deeply transformative. Entire communities were coming together, finding new ways to live in harmony with the earth and each other. Revolutionary technologies were emerging, motivated not by greed, but by the need for healing and restoration. I saw people rediscovering ancient wisdom, combining it with new knowledge to create innovative solutions to the challenges they faced. But the most surprising thing was seeing myself in these visions. I was older, perhaps in my 50s. My face etched with lines of experience, but my eyes shining with a light I didn't recognize. I found myself speaking to groups of people, sharing the wisdom I had gained, helping others navigate turbulent times. The beings of light made me understand that this period of great change, the Great Judgment, was not a single event, but a process that had already begun and would intensify over the coming decades. It was not a trial in the traditional sense, with a judge deciding who would be saved and who would be condemned. It was more like a point of collective choice, where each individual would be called upon to decide what kind of world they wanted to create. I saw that the destiny of the earth and humanity was in a delicate balance. The choices each person would make in the coming years would have a profound impact on the final outcome. Some would choose fear, selfishness, and separation, while others would choose love, compassion, and unity. Every decision, no matter how small it seemed, would contribute to shaping the collective future. The beings of light showed me that this period of transition, although challenging, was actually an incredible opportunity for growth and evolution. It was a chance for humanity to transcend old patterns of thought and behavior, to create a new form of existence based on an understanding of our true nature as interconnected spiritual beings. As the visions faded, I was overcome with an overwhelming sense of responsibility and purpose. I realized that the knowledge I had gained from this near-death experience was not just for me. It was something I was meant to share, a light to help guide others through the difficult times ahead. I looked at Jesse and the beings of light, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. I knew I had a choice to make, and that choice carried a weight I could never have imagined when I decided to end my life that fateful night. While visions of the future still echoed in my consciousness, I felt the weight of the choice that was before me. The beings of light and Jesse waited patiently, their presence radiating unconditional love and understanding. "It's your choice, Rowan," Jesse's voice resonated in my mind, full of affection. You can stay here, in this eternal peace and understanding, or you can return and make the difference you saw in the visions. I looked around me at the transcendental beauty of that realm of light. The peace he felt there was indescribable, a complete relief from all the pain and suffering he had experienced in life. Part of me longed to stay, to merge with this light and leave all earthly struggles behind. But then, images of the future came back to me. I saw again the faces of the people I could help, the lives I could touch. I saw the world undergoing monumental transformations and realized I had the opportunity to be part of that change in a meaningful way. "It won't be easy," warned one of the beings of light, his message resonating directly into my consciousness. "The path you have seen is challenging. There will be moments of doubt, of fear, of pain. But there will also be joy, purpose, and an opportunity for growth that few have the privilege of experiencing." I thought about everything I had learned on this journey beyond life, the review of my life, the reunion with Jesse, the visions of the future. All of this had transformed me profoundly. I realized that I was no longer the same person who had decided to take his own life. Now, I had a greater understanding, a perspective that transcended my own pain and suffering. "If I go back," I asked, "will I be able to remember all this, to use this knowledge to make a difference?" The second being of light approached, its energy conveying comfort and safety. "Not everything will be clear right away," he explained. "Some memories will be like dreams, others will come to you gradually, but the essence of what you learned here will remain with you, guiding your actions and decisions." I looked at Jesse, my heart filled with conflicting emotions. "I miss you," I said, my voice shaking. "Part of me wants to stay here with you." Jesse smiled, that smile that always brightened my darkest days. "I will always be with you, Rowan, not physically, but in spirit. And one day, when your mission is complete, we will meet again. But right now, the world needs you." His words resonated deeply with me. I looked once again at the beings of light, at Jesse, at the realm of peace and understanding that surrounded me. So I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, feeling a resolve forming within me. "I'll be back," I said finally, my voice firm with a determination I hadn't felt in years. "There's work to be done, people to help. I can't turn my back on that now that I know what's at stake." I felt a wave of approval and love emanating from the beings of light and Jesse. The third being of light approached, its energy transmitting strength and courage. "Remember, Rowan," his message echoed in my mind, "you will not be alone. We will always be with you, guiding and supporting you, even if you can't always feel or see us." Jesse approached, enveloping me in a hug that transcended the physical. It was a hug of souls, full of love, forgiveness, and encouragement. "I'm proud of you, brother," he said. "Now go and live. Live for both of us." With those words, I felt a shift begin. The light around me began to intensify, becoming almost blinding. I felt myself being pulled, like I was falling toward something I couldn't see. The last things I heard were the voices of the beings of light and Jesse, blending into a chorus of love and encouragement. "Remember, Rowan, remember and live." And then, everything went dark. The darkness that enveloped me was suddenly interrupted by an explosion of sensations. Pain, cold, screeching sounds. It all came back at once, like a crushing wave. My lungs burned as I choked, struggling to breathe. My eyes opened, but the light was so intense that I had to close them again immediately. "He's back," I heard a voice shout, sounding distant and close at the same time. "We need to stabilize him now." Little by little, I began to become aware of my surroundings. I was lying on something hard. A stretcher, I realized. The sound of sirens penetrated my ears, and the characteristic smell of an ambulance invaded my nostrils. Hands moved over me, checking vitals, adjusting equipment. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry and sore. Only a weak moan escaped my lips. "Sir, can you hear me?" a female voice asked. "If you can understand me, shake my hand." I felt a hand grab mine, and with all the effort I could muster, I squeezed back. "Good," the voice replied, relief evident in its tone. "You're in an ambulance. You overdosed, but we managed to revive you. We're taking you to the hospital now." An overdose. Memories of the night started to come back. The bottle of pills, the decision to end it all. But there was more. Much more. Fragments of an experience beyond human comprehension danced on the periphery of my consciousness. Light, unconditional love. Jesse. Jesse. My heart sank at the memory of my brother. Had it been real? Or just a dream brought on by a dying brain? As the ambulance raced through the streets, I felt a shift within me. The physical pain was intense, but there was something more, a sense of purpose, an understanding that went beyond the immediate circumstances. I couldn't remember all the details of what I had experienced, but I knew, deep down in my being, that something profound had changed. The next few hours passed in a blur of medical exams, questions from nurses and doctors, and moments of consciousness interspersed with periods of deep sleep. When I finally fully woke up, I was in a hospital room. The soft light of dawn streamed in through the window, painting the room with golden hues. I looked down at my hands, noticing the IV needle in my arm. It was alive. After everything I had done to try to end my life, I was still here, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like there was a reason for that. Memories of my experience began to gradually return. They were not clear or linear like a normal memory. They were more like impressions, feelings, flashes of understanding that went beyond words. I remembered the feeling of absolute peace, the unconditional love I had experienced. I remembered the visions of the future, the importance of the choices each of us makes. And I remembered the choice I had made, the decision to return, to live, to make the difference I had envisioned. A nurse entered the room, interrupting my thoughts. "Good morning," she said with a gentle smile. "How are you feeling?" I looked at her, really seeing her. Not just a nurse doing her job, but a human being with her own journey, her own struggles and joys. I felt a surge of compassion that I had never experienced before. "Boys, I'm alive," I replied, my voice hoarse but firm. "I'm alive and grateful for that." The nurse seemed a little surprised by my response, but her smile widened. "Yes, you are," she said. "You were very lucky. The paramedics said they arrived just in time." Luck? Perhaps. Or maybe it was something more, something I was still trying to understand. As the nurse checked my vitals, I looked out the window at the world outside, the world I almost left behind, the world that, I now knew, needed each of us to face the challenges that lay ahead. "Thank you," I said to the nurse when she was finished. "Thank you for taking care of me." She seemed touched by my words. "That's what we're here for," he replied, "to help people recover and move forward. Move on." Yes, that's exactly what I needed to do right now, but not in the way he had done before. This time, it would be different. This time, I had a purpose. As the nurse left the room, I closed my eyes and made a silent promise. For Jesse, for the beings of light, for myself. A promise to live fully, to use this second chance to make the difference I had envisioned. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. I knew that. There was a lot to repair, a lot to learn, a lot to do. But for the first time in years, I felt ready to take on the challenge, because now I knew. Every life matters, every choice has consequences, and there is so much more at stake than we could ever imagine. The days following my near-death experience were a roller coaster of emotions and discoveries. As I recovered physically in the hospital, my mind was in constant turmoil, trying to process everything I had experienced. Memories of my journey beyond life were not clear or linear. They came in flashes, sometimes in vivid dreams, sometimes in quiet moments during the day. I remembered the feeling of absolute peace, the unconditional love that I had experienced. Visions of the future, although hazy, remained a constant reminder of the importance of the choices each of us makes. The medical team was surprised by my quick physical recovery and, even more so, by the drastic change in my attitude. Where before there was despair and apathy, there was now a calm determination and a renewed curiosity about life. When I was finally released from the hospital, I left with a clarity of purpose I hadn't felt in years. He knew he couldn't just go back to the life he had before. I had to make significant changes, not just for myself, but for the role I now understood I had to play in the grand scheme of things. The first step was to seek professional help to deal with my traumas and addictions. I found a therapist who, to my surprise, was open to discussing spiritual and near-death experiences. With her help, I began the difficult work of processing not only my past pain, but also the profound transformation I had experienced. At the same time, I started studying voraciously books on spirituality, philosophy, psychology, environmental science, anything that could help me better understand the visions I had and the role I was supposed to play. I participated in support groups for people who had had near-death experiences, finding comfort and validation in the stories of others who had touched the other side. As the months passed, I felt compelled to share my story. I started small, speaking at addiction recovery groups, sharing not only my near-death experience but also the journey of healing and self-discovery that followed. To my surprise, people responded with an openness and curiosity that I had not expected. Gradually, my circle of influence began to expand. I have been invited to speak at schools, community centers, and even small conferences about consciousness and spirituality. I did not present myself as a guru or a prophet, but simply as someone who had glimpsed something beyond our everyday reality and was trying to integrate that experience into a meaningful life. But talking was not enough. It reminded me of visions of the future, of the challenges that humanity would face. I began to get involved in community projects, focusing especially on environmental initiatives and programs to support at-risk youth. I used my own story as an example of how it is possible to overcome even the darkest moments and find a greater purpose. As the years passed, I saw the changes that the beings of light had shown me begin to manifest: climate disasters, social turmoil, collapse of old structures. Everything was happening as predicted. But I also saw the awakening they had mentioned. People from all walks of life beginning to question old paradigms, seeking more sustainable and compassionate ways of living. Today, at 50 years old, I look back and barely recognize the broken man I once was. The journey was not easy. There were moments of doubt, of fear, moments when the magnitude of the task before me seemed overwhelming. But in each of these moments, I remembered the words of Jesse and the beings of light. I remembered the unconditional love I had experienced and the choice I had made to return and make a difference. I know the work is far from over. The great judgment that I was shown is not a single event, but an ongoing process. Every day brings new choices, new opportunities to grow, to help, to make a difference. And each day, I do my best to honor the second chance I've been given. My story, the story of how I died and was reborn, is not just mine. It is a reminder to all of us that there is more to life than meets the eye, that each of us has an important role to play in the unfolding destiny of humanity. And most importantly, it is a testimony to the transformative power of love, compassion, and purpose. As I continue my journey, I carry with me the certainty that one day, when my mission here is complete, I will reunite with Jesse and the beings of light. Until then, I live each day with gratitude, purpose, and the determination to make this world a better place, one act of kindness at a time. This is my new mission. This is the true meaning of my second chance in life, and I'm grateful for every moment of it. If you like this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, comment on your impressions, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell to watch each new video and help us spread this message to a greater number of people. Until next time.